We're nearly there, ladies and gentlemen. We've only got 3 more games before we can say goodbye to Platinum, but I've got to tell you folks, this was painful to play through. We have yet another hack and slasher based on a popular cartoon from the 80s and 90s. You know, out of all the Platinum games I've reviewed so far, I thought Anarchy Reigns would have been the low point in the marathon. But now that I've played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants in Manhattan, I can safely say that this is the worst Platinum title. I don't know where their sudden obsession of taking cartoons and turning them into games came from, but while The Legend of Korra was bland at best and Transformers Devastation was considerably better, Mutants in Manhattan absolutely tanked. 2016 was not a good year for Platinum. They made 2 games in the same year and neither of them were met with the highest praise. Star Fox Zero more so, but certainly not TMNT. And yet again, like The Legend of Korra and Transformers, I have very little history with the Turtles. I know a lot about them and the villains they face, but no matter how many times the show gets remade, the Turtles never piqued my interest, even as a little kid. I've seen the first few episodes of the original cartoon and the first live-action movie, but call me controversial? I'm not a fan of anything TMNT related. The Turtles are just a bit too dated for me. The pop culture references, the stereotypical characters, and I'm okay with a bit of 90s cheese. I enjoy Buffy the Vampire Slayer for crying out loud, but this just had too much cheese going on. I recall watching a bit of the mid-2000s cartoon growing up, and I went to see the 2007 CGI movie when it came out in theaters, both of which had cleaner animation and a more surreal tone, but still I never stuck around for long. This is another one of those franchises like Transformers where the initial idea was to sell toys, but an animated series was made to further accumulate its popularity. Anyway, the show was about a ninja master named Hamato Yoshi, who was the leader of the Foot Clan, but one of his students named Oroku Saki resented Yoshi's leadership for some reason, I have no idea why, and he set up a plan to pin Yoshi to the wall with a knife, making him unable to kneel before the visiting sensei. Not only was this seen as an insult, but after pulling the knife, Yoshi's mistaken for trying to murder the sensei, and thus he's shunned from the Foot Clan and travels to New York City. Without a penny in his name and entirely homeless, he's forced to live in the sewers with the rats, and on top of that, Saki has become the new leader of the Foot Clan, turning them into an evil organization. Time passes and Yoshi adopts 4 baby turtles after accidentally being dropped in the sewers, but one day after coming back from exploring New York, he finds that the turtles have been exposed to some strange ooze. And since they've been with Yoshi last, the turtles grow up to be man-like, and since Yoshi's been with rats for so long, he gets turned into a giant rat and now goes by the name Master Splinter. He becomes a father figure to the turtles and teaches them the art of ninjutsu, while also naming them after the great Renaissance painters, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Saki, now known as the Shredder, and his Foot Clan eventually arrive in New York, wanting to get rid of Splinter once and for all. The rest of the show is just the turtles and sometimes Master Splinter stopping Shredder and the Foot Clan and dealing with whatever supernatural beings come in their way, like Krang the Talking Brain and Bebop and Rocksteady. That sounds like it could be a good premise for a video game, and the Turtles did actually have a couple of well-received titles, but the one most people know is the 4th game, Turtles in Time, for the Super Nintendo, which is often seen as one of the best beat-em-ups of all time. I think that's stretching it a bit. I mean, it's a decent game, but one of the all-time greatest? Really? It only used 2 buttons, which can be taken as simplicity, but personally I get tired of doing the same moves over and over, even if it is a short game. Now then, Mutants in Manhattan. I remember there being a fair bit of hype for this one. A hack and slasher where you take control of all the turtles, fight classic villains, and it's all developed by Platinum Games? Cool. Well, let's see where they've screwed up this time, and by the way, if for whatever reason you want to play this game, get the PS4 and Xbox One versions, because apparently the PS3 and 360 versions have some horrible frame rate issues. Not that it matters anyway, because the frame rate in all the versions will always be locked at 30 per second, as opposed to Platinum's usual 60. Normally I wouldn't be too bothered by this, but Mutants in Manhattan isn't that graphically superior to Korra or Transformers, so why couldn't it be 60? But that's a minuscule issue compared to the rest of the game. It's yet another spectacle fighter with none of the finesse from Platinum's other work. Oh sure, it doesn't look any different, but trust me, when you actually play it, it's got a ton of problems. Firstly, though it's great that you can play as all 4 turtles, they're barely distinguishable from each other. They all each have similar speeds and range, so picking a favorite turtle would be very difficult to do, and the only reason to switch between them is to use one of their 4 available special attacks. This is the only bit of diversity the game has going for it, and you are able to change and upgrade the special attacks when you have the right amount of currency, but with only 4 to choose from for each turtle, on top of there being so few combos and no additional ones to purchase, this is extremely limiting. Not to mention that after you use a special attack, there's a bit of cooldown time before you can use it again, and some of the special attacks are just flat out useless, either because they don't do enough damage or just don't benefit you in any way because of the shoddy enemy design. For example, why should I have one of my turtles do a cheerleading routine to stop the cooldown for special attacks when I could just wait a little longer to use it and fill that slot with something better? I'll admit that I found Raph's and Mikey's dance attack pretty humorous for making the enemies get jiggy with it very shortly, but that's not enough to make the combat interesting. Accessories are once again available if you need them, but like Transformers, they're next to useless, so I didn't even bother switching them often. Dodging and parrying is available from the start thankfully, but the timing for parrying is super freaking strict, and dodging at the last possible moment to let me counterattack just seems to work whenever it feels like it. But even then, you only have a split second to press the counter button, otherwise that was all for nothing, and that's assuming you don't get flooded with bad guys. Many times have at least one of the turtles died because of having to deal with an overwhelmingly plentiful amount of goons, and if a turtle's shell-shocked, you have to keep mashing the X button to eat pizza and replenish your health in order to revive yourself. However, if all 4 turtles are down, then you have to use one of your few continues to carry on, and if you don't have any more, you've got to start the whole level again, and that totally blows. You can't even stop in the middle of a stage. You have to do the whole thing without taking a break. It's not like these are short stages either. Most of them last around half an hour, sometimes even longer. You want to take a break for a little while? Well, too bad. You got to keep going if you don't want to do it all over. It seems that a lot of these stages were built for co-op, and that's what most of the Turtles games are well known for, being able to play with friends and family. Mutants in Manhattan is no exception to this, but you can only do it online. There's no local multiplayer whatsoever, and you'll be lucky to even find someone playing this scrap heap online. When you're playing solo, the AI controls the rest of the Turtles, and I guess they can be somewhat competent, and a few times they can do things human players can't even do. For example, when you touch fire, it chips away your health, but the AI can just walk through that no problem. Or take this bullshit where you need to use stealth to bypass the enemies, but as soon as that mission begins, one of the turtles gets immediately spotted.
Mikey got caught, guys. Who would have thought?
Oh, shut up, April. Sneaking is another factor to Mutants in Manhattan, but trust me, it's almost worthless trying to be careful, because the enemies often can't see you even when you're really close up, or at times they'll not bother trying to be vigilant. Like take this guy in the sewers, why is he looking at a dead end? He must realize there's nothing there, but oh well, I'll just take care of him in one fell swoop while his back is turned for so long. That's the only benefit to using stealth in the first place, just to get the level over and done with faster, and not suffer dealing with stronger foes. And you gotta love it when you get shell-shocked and the enemies are able to knock you off the roof, or even worse, they'll put you somewhere the other turtles can't easily reach to revive you. How about the fact you can still get hit even after the bosses are defeated? And dear god, these bosses are awful. Yeah, it's cool that they're all based on villains from the shows, but every one of them sucks so hard and they're incredibly frustrating. We've got attacks that are ridiculously difficult to avoid, spamming those same attacks over and over again, not to mention that they hurt like a bag full of anvils being dropped on your head, and they each have 7 goddamn health bars. 7? 7? These fights can take so long to finish, and that's not what we need when the levels already take a full episode of a Netflix drama to beat. The only boss I didn't have a problem with was surprisingly Krang, but hey, I'm not complaining. But if it isn't the boss battles that are the pinnacles of tedium, getting to them is the icing on the cake. This is Platinum's 3rd licensed game, and they've still somehow made some of the most uninteresting level designs I've ever seen. You go through the city, then the subway, then the sewers, then the city again, then the sewers again, then the city again, then the TCRI headquarters, then back to the city again, and finally still in the goddamn city! I get it's New York, so locations aren't going to be too varied, but do they really need to repeat areas so often? And I'm not 100% sure on this, but I swear to god these are also the exact same level layouts. Take the sewer levels for instance. This is the 3rd level against Slash, and this is the 5th level against Armagon. See the difference? Neither can I. And for God's sake, do these levels have to be so freaking lengthy? You're doing the same shit again and again, and it gets so damn boring! I really don't know what else to say about this game. It's just bad. The gameplay is sorely repetitive, and challenge doesn't come from testing the player's skills or proving how much you've grown over time. Instead, it simply throws in as many enemies as the screen can take. This gauntlet in the Armagon level was a major pain in the ass to survive, and look at this credit sequence. The whole area is filled with baddies, and I'm not given a chance to fight back. How is this fun? My patience was constantly tested in this game, and it may only be close to 5 hours long, but god did it feel like 10. This game also can't be bought digitally, so I imagine this is why physical copies still go for $30. That is laughable. You can do so much better with $30. Hell, I wouldn't even recommend borrowing this from a friend. Just skip it. Mutants in Manhattan is easily the weakest of Platinum's titles. I don't know what went wrong after Bayonetta 2, but aside from Transformers, they seem to be struggling to keep themselves afloat at this point, and this is bottom of the barrel crap. And I'm sad to say that the next game, Star Fox Zero, was only marginally received better than the Turtles, and if you know about the game, I'm sure you can figure out why. We'll get deeper into that when we get there though, so I'll see you guys next time for my review of Star Fox Zero.